to start this interview off with saying thank you for your service as an educator, because I believe educators are superheroes. Without them, we wouldn't have ourselves or anybody else, at least the knowledgeable ones of ourselves, because y'all have the biggest impact on our students outside of the parents. And if the parents are steering the students in the wrong direction, you have the biggest impact usually to steer them in the right direction. You are creating our future leaders, our future what have you. And y'all are putting y'all legitimately some of y'all putting y'all lives on the line during a pandemic. So I don't know how y'all are doing it right now, but I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So this is Omolola Ajayi. She is a fifth grade English language arts teacher and social studies teacher. She's a K through six English. If I say English one more time, English language arts content lead. She also is a K through undergrad tutor, and she is a new Memphis 2020 Educator of Excellence. So once again, congratulations. We've talked outside of this. Congratulations on that award. We went to college together. Amalola is a really good friend of mine. We have so many stories of ridiculous things that we've done in life. We also went to Puerto Rico together once upon a time
Yes, we did.
before the world shut down. So this is Amalola, one of my really good friends. So thank you for sitting down for this interview. And how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Shane. I'm actually really excited about the conversation we're going to have today. I know that we always have really good conversations, so I'm sure this won't be any different. But yeah, I'm doing great today.
And I'm gonna say this now: we will spare y'all because our conversations will go about 3 4 hours, and we're not gonna do that today.
Okay.
Conversations be long, be deep, just be talking about everything. But today we're gonna focus on your role as an educator during the pandemic. So you're doing well. Let's talk about how you became an educator. Like, how did you get here? I know the story, but tell the people the story of how you became an educator.
Woo, man. I guess without going too far back, um, right after undergraduate, after graduating from Rhodes. I was already, so prior to graduation, I was already working at a school. I had an internship my senior year, and I was working in the main charter office for the school. And I was working as an intern, a communications intern. Halfway through the year, they needed they kind of needed some extra manpower in the building in terms of English interventionists or ELA reading interventionists and tutors. And so they asked if I would do kind of like double duty. I would spend half of my week in the main charter office and then the other half working with the students in a small group doing some reading intervention. And I agreed. But it was during that second semester that the principal of the school actually, I guess she was just really impressed with how I was able to connect with the students and kind of just like my energy and what I brought to the table in terms of working in those small groups. And so, literally, before we even finished the school year, she asked if I would be willing to come on next year the following year as a full time teacher. And I was like, yeah, like, okay. I mean, at this point, I'm about to graduate, and the biggest thing on your mind at that point is like, I need a job. So so I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working for the school, and so I was like, sure. I mean, yes, let's do it. And so I got on. Yeah, I signed my contract, and that's literally how I began teaching. So yeah, that was what this is my sixth year. This will be my sixth year teaching. So that was 6 years ago. Yeah, I'm kind of like a vet now. You know,
So,
I
six
got
years is
some skin
longer.
in the game.
I mean, with your accolades and what you've accomplished, it makes sense that you've been at least teaching 6 years. I feel like you've done things that people haven't done in 6 years. But in my mind, like, yeah, I'm gonna start teaching like last week. Like because everything in my mind is so short time. Like, yeah, it has been 6 years since we
Yeah,
graduated.
it's been a long time.
And just to clarify, Amlola is in Memphis teaching. I feel like I didn't say that. You are a new
Yeah.
Memphis awardee or
Yes.
award winner.
Awardee, award winner. I think both of those are correct.
Yeah, of this year. But I didn't say you actually teach in Memphis, so I'm a little teacher in Memphis. And how are you teaching this semester? Are you virtual? Are you hybrid? Are you in person?
So we are currently 100% virtual. There have been conversations uh, district-wide, citywide about whether or not all schools are going to convert to being hybrid. Um, and so, yeah, well, I'll know more about that once we get back to school for the second semester, but the fall semester was 100% virtual.
Okay, so how did that work? You came in August, first day, and you're teaching fifth and sixth grade.
Yeah,
And you're teaching fifth grade, but you're also a
teaching,
content
yeah,
leader for kindergarten through sixth.
right.
How did that work with your classroom of your students? Like you haven't met them in person, it's a new crop of students, I imagine. You probably need to meet the parents. Like, how was that come first day of school in August?
Oh man, I mean, the first day of school, I mean, honestly, the only thing that was, and I say the only thing like it wasn't a big deal, but the only thing that was different was the fact that we were virtual. And so, of course, you have your first day jitters, your first day nerves, and you're trying to figure out what's the best way for me to essentially capture this new group of students. And I had it a little bit easy because I've been at my current school for the last, this will be my fourth year. So I've had 3 years prior at this school. And so, when you're a teacher working in the building, and grades are usually grouped together in terms of where they're positioned in the school. So I had some familiarity with the students that I teach now, and they knew who I was. Because I teach fifth grade, fourth and fifth grade usually work together on a few things, and we see each other in the halls and things like that. So a lot of our children, we have a really good a situation where we retain the majority of our students. And so a lot of my children knew who I was. They were familiar with me and kind of knew a little bit about how I roll. And so that did make it a little bit easy. And then also going in, our school was really big about making contact prior to the first day. So there were calls and conversations, meetups with the parents, virtual meetups with the parents and things like that to introduce ourselves before the first day of school and kind of get everybody situated and in the groove. So in terms of like relationship wise, um, we were kind of able to, to start the first day of school, brand new school year, in a positive space. And I tried to try my absolute best to make my class as fun as possible and legitimately like the kids. I mean, I got so much feedback that those first few days, that first week from students and parents about how much fun the kids were having. Parents would message me on, we use Class Dojo um, as a parent communication platform. And so my parents would send me messages about how they were so excited that I was their child's teacher and how I made it so engaging and fun for them. And they were just really glad to know that I would be teaching their student this year and it kind of just ease their whatever like concerns they had about being 100% virtual. So yeah, I knew, virtual is different. We've never done this before. At least my school hasn't. Some schools have an element of virtual learning anyway, but this was completely new to us. And so, because I knew that, I tried my absolute best to do whatever possible to kind of offset that, or I guess almost in a way overcompensate, because it was a different setup. So, yeah, that first day of school, that first week of school was definitely challenging. But I also have to say, I had a lot of fun because I mean, we played games, we did a lot of activities, we did a little bit of content, but that's first week of school is also what we call culture week. So you're trying to get to know the students, you want them to get to know you a little bit, and get set into like the mindset of how you'll be teaching them and what you expect from them. And so yeah, that first week there were some things that we didn't foresee, some things you like, oh, okay, I need to make note of that and fix that. But it was also really fun. Again, I tried my absolute best to make sure that they were engaged and that they wanted to log on and not that it was like a chore or a burden. So yeah.
Okay. That sounds great. That y'all, it seems like y'all had the strategy set for y'all to come in and be successful. So that's dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, take me through a day of working as a teacher, as Omolola Ajayi, fifth
Oh.
grade teacher.
Okay. So, so typically I wake up pretty early. My range is between it's 4 on a good morning, latest 5. And that's really just because I don't have to be at work until about 7:30. But all of that time in the morning really just helps me center myself. I'm able to have quiet time, which is just my way of starting the day spiritually. And so I have my quiet time, and then it just gives me those few hours to kind of just like get myself together, get grounded and centered, and think about what I have to do for the day. So by the time I make it to work at 7:30, at that point, I have about 20 minutes before I have to actually log on with the students. So 7:50 is when the scholars are able to log on, and I let them in for what I guess you kind of have virtual homeroom. At by 8 o'clock, if they don't log on by 8 o'clock, then they are late. So that 10 minutes, now the students pretty much lead that 10 minutes. They come in, and somebody might have a question, or somebody might, share something that they did the night before, or, something about their family, whatever they want to talk about, we kind of like talk about it. But that's also the time that I use to have the students watch CNN 10. That is a like hard earned, like that is a tradition with me. Every year, I think for the last 4 years, I've started my classes off with watching CNN 10, which is it's just a 10 minute. It's a news show for students. It's 10 minutes each morning, and I mean it gives you the quality of watching CNN, right? And so it's that. It's just a really good way to start off the day and give the kids some, an opportunity and some exposure to what's going on around in the world, in the world around them. And we might talk about that after the show goes off or whatever. Sometimes people, you know something they saw in the news may strike them a certain way, and so we have conversations. And some mornings we don't. Everybody doesn't all every day doesn't always lend itself to a conversation. But yeah, we start off with CNN 10. And then from there, we do what we call Jump Start, which is our intervention block. And so that's the next 45 minutes where we do small groups. And that's really just tailored to helping students on their individual levels, right? Whatever areas of improvement they have, we just work through, skills and concepts to help them get better and just motivate the kids, have a little bit more intimate instructional time. And so, that's what those 45 minutes are purpose for. And then after those 45 minutes, I have my first reading block with my first set of kids. So I have a total of 2 classes that I rotate between. I'm departmentalized, so I only teach reading and social studies. My co-teacher teaches math and science. So I have half of our total fifth grade students um, in the morning for about 2.5 hours. We do reading, social studies, and then that 2.5 hours, the kids then go on what we call EC. So they have the break and all that, which is about 40 minutes or so. So after they do EC, we come back and have like a 20-minute wrap up for class. Then they go to lunch. And because it's virtual, we essentially we combine our lunch and our recess together and give the kids an extended break. They're sitting in front of these computers a long time. And, we recognize just the need to get up and walk away and like completely disconnect. Now, do the students actually disconnect? No, not always. They try. It's like their hour to be social. They miss being in a physical space with other students, and so they really do take their time to, do those online games like Roblox, or maybe some of them have what is the Xbox or the PS, whichever one is that. I don't know nothing about that. Okay, I just know PlayStation. Hello. So whatever whatever platform or gaming system they have, they usually get on and play those online games and talk to each other and things like that. And sometimes we have a virtual lunch where we might watch a movie or whatever, or just congregate virtually with each other. And so after our lunch break, which is about an hour, we typically give them an hour. We really do. Um, so after that hour has elapsed, we then switch classes, and I finish the school day out with my second block of kids, teaching reading and social studies. And then from there, um, I have about a 15-minute window. We go all the way up until 3:15. So I have that 15-minute window between 3:15 and 3:30 where I have to log out, and we call that office hours. And so usually what will happen is a few things. I may meet with a small group of students or individual students to talk about something that I may needed to address, but I didn't want to either address earlier in the day or with the whole class, or we use that as homework time. So some of the students, because it's like it's been, and I may be in the head, but one of the biggest challenges that I faced this past semester is just getting students to complete the work, whether that's classwork or homework. It doesn't matter, just complete the work. And so I've used that time for, I'll tell the students, hey, if you stay on with me until 3:30, I'll give you extra credit for completing your homework. And usually kids are pretty and they're like, oh, okay, okay, yeah, I stay on mine. And especially if it's something that doesn't take that long, and I'll let them know, hey, I'll give you feedback in the moment. And so they'll do the work, let me check it, and I'll give it back to them for them to correct. And, it gets them to 100, it gets them to completing the work, and they get that extra credit, which is always helpful. So, yeah, that last 15 minutes that I have to be logged on is when is that time to do that. And I usually have a pretty good turnout in terms of students staying on and wanting to get their work done with that. And so yeah, after 3:30, I stay till about 4, sometimes 5, to do whatever it is that I need to do, or maybe I need to de-stress and talk to my co-teacher, check in with him and see how he's doing. But then around 5 o'clock, I typically try to leave. I try not to stay too long, too often. um, and then I go handle my personal business. By the time 7 o'clock rolls around, I'm done. I don't want to do anything related to work or having to think real hard. so, so I use that time as my personal time, and then by the time 9 o'clock rolls around, I'm getting ready for bed. 9:30, between 9:30 10:30, I'm getting in the bed. So yeah, it's a pretty busy day, but yeah, I like it.
All right. So I would like to enroll in your classroom so I can have all the fun that you having.
Well, come on.
Um, and so you're not teaching from home. You're actually you go into the school to host your classes.
Yeah, so well, I guess it's kind of like a hybrid schedule. We have one set day where we get the opportunity to work from home if we want to. And I typically take that day. But every other day, so that day is Wednesday, which is nice because, Tuesday you go into the building and then like, oh, okay, Wednesday I don't have to come in. So it just kind of creates like a break. And then you come back Thursday, Friday into the building. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we work in the building, unless there has been something else that leadership needs us to not be in the building for. But then Wednesday, if you want to, you can work from home. So yeah, we kind of have a hybrid schedule.
Gotcha. And so what have you had to adapt as a teacher from your in-person teaching methods to then well, you have to adapt everything, obviously, but how have you adapted your in-person methods to work virtually?
Oh man. Um, I think the biggest thing that I've had to adapt. So I'm a tough teacher, okay? And I let my students know, I let my parents know from jump. Like this is I know, look, some teachers you might get in and y'all might do a little something, something, and then you get out. I'm not that teacher. And so because I know that I am such an intense teacher, I've had to adapt in the area of flexibility first and foremost, right? I've had to be more considerate and more mindful of the fact that our students are virtual and that they're not physically in the room with me, right? Because being in the physical room, I can,
You'll be all right. I'm coming.
okay, I can, like, that's my space, right? I can man the space the way that I need to man that space for whatever learning outcomes I have, right? Whereas virtually, I can't man. There's those like my presence can only go so far. Now it goes far, okay. I've managed to have managed to develop or establish great command with my students. So much so to the point of, and I hope this doesn't sound controlling, but to the point of, like, my students know if you need to get up, like, you need to tell me. We need to have a conversation, whether that be a verbal exchange or a chat message. You need to let me know what you're about to do so that when I scan my camera, I know why I don't see you or why your camera's off, right? And so my command is still there, but I've had to be very, again, flexible and just understanding, and that, everything that I may want to get across may not actually get across because of where our students are. Our students live in a variety of home spaces, right? Some homes are conducive to learning, some are not. I mean, they're at home with their parents or grandparents or little brothers and little sisters. And if they're the oldest child, they have to, every now and again, they might have to help the younger children maybe log on or do something or whatever. And then some of our students are also at centers, right? They don't have the ability to be at home, and so they're at centers like the YMCA or church buildings that have opened up their spaces to be virtual cafes almost, right? And so there are other students there, people walking around. It's a lot of distractions, and so the flexibility first and foremost. But then also, I've also had to, like, um not readjust my expectations, but readjust how I establish my expectations, and then how I maintain those expectations. So in terms of work, I I need you to complete work. If I don't have you have completed work, then I don't have accurate real time data, right? And so with that, I've had to just be flexible in the sense of, instead of giving 10 questions, maybe I give five, right? Instead of five, maybe I give three, right? I give where in the normal classroom setting they may have these large tasks to do and they could actually get through them because they're at school, right? At home, I've had to shorten those tasks because at this point their attention span is not, you know, it's not there, right? And then of course just everything going on in the background. So I've had to definitely become more flexible in terms of just how I approach my students and how I command their attention. But then also just like the actual work. Some of this work is just too lengthy for a virtual setup. And a lot of some of our students just need that extra help. Like being in a physical space with the teacher physically close to them was a necessity for them. But we didn't, they're at home, they don't have that physical presence of a teacher to walk them through or motivate them to get through it. So instead of asking them to do something with 10 questions, I just, give me five. Okay, give me five good ones and we're good to go.
Give me
So
1 second. The heat came on, and I almost just buzzing in the background of my sound.
okay. I got you.
Cut that off. Calm down. It'll go off in a second. Um, Dope. So something you mentioned that I haven't heard yet is that some students are they're not at home. They're at community centers. They're at the YMCA. They're at these other locations. That's super interesting because I have not heard that yet, and it kind of makes sense. Also realizing those places are still open during the pandemic.
Mhm.
So, and then you're like managing students virtually, managing your classroom with how many students are in the classroom for you?
So I have a total of 30, is it 30, 32 or 33? I have a small total population.
Oh,
It's
oh,
very,
there's two classes.
yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
was 32 and one, and that's small. Come on now, we
No, no, oh no, no. No, my 32 are total. So my two classes make up 32. But I believe in one class, and here's where my math might be off, but I think I have like 16 in one class and 17 in the other, or something like that. It's not even, but I don't have more than, I would say I don't have more than 17 students per a block, an instructional block. So again, that's really small in comparison to other people who may have 20, 25, 30 in one, like one virtual class.
Got you. And
Yeah.
so, with all these students in your virtual class, you've seen all these boxes, and you say you have command of your classroom. How has it been managing students? Like you've been able to like you need to let me know if you're gonna walk away from class, but when you have those stragglers who are like either you can tell they're not paying attention, or I don't know if like the fifth graders making faces on the camera. I don't know if you
Yeah.
have that. Like how do you manage your classroom? Do you have outside help? Is there like a social like a monitor person who watches your classroom? How does that work for you?
So I just recently, probably the last, probably like the last 2 weeks before we went out for Christmas break or winter break, really. I got a teacher's aide, one of our interventionists. She comes in, 30 minutes for each block, and essentially it's just like extra help. But even then, in terms of managing, again, this is where I think my presence as a teacher has just come like full force, right? So I lay down the law. Look, this is how we roll, and we roll like this. And so you gonna do it or you're not, okay? And if you decide you're not gonna do it, I have my cell phone right here. I got my all of my dojo up. So if I need to chat your mom or your dad and let them know, hey, so and so is not doing what they're supposed to do, I need your assistance, then that happens. And so usually children, they remember, oh, like my mom don't play that. I mean, and then too, one of the advantages of being virtual in the home is that, and especially if the kid doesn't have headphones, mom and dad is usually somewhere close in the house. And so if I have to correct the student, 9 times out of 10, there's a parent next to them that's cussing out something, and then, that gets them in line. So I don't have to do too much. But for those stragglers, if it gets to a point where I'm just like, okay, you're really not following instructions, I typically try to keep them, like, I try to reprimand them privately. So, on Zoom, you have the ability to do breakout rooms. And so I won't tell a child that I'm putting them in a breakout room. They'll just know, like, oh, if they don't see their classmates anymore, then they know that I'm on my way. So, and I have that private conversation. Look, I need you. It's already difficult, right? We're in a virtual setup. You're not in a physical classroom. I need you to make sure that you're communicating with me, or I need you to make sure that you're doing this, whatever it is I need them to do. And we have that private conversation. I let them know of the consequences if they can't follow. And then we come back. And then if that is just too much for it, like if they still can't get it together, oh, we got this thing where we call put in the waiting room. I mean, you get dismissed from class because at that point, I just don't have the time. Like, I do not have the privilege or luxury of time to continuously reprimand you or to get you back on track. You're now taken away from your learning time and the learning time of other students, and I can't do that. And so you get dismissed from class so that I don't have to worry about that. Your parent gets a notification. They know, hey, so and so got dismissed from class because of this. When they're ready to come back, you can have them log back on, and I will let them back into the class space. And that usually works as well, because parents genuinely don't want their kids missing, right? And so whatever they need to do to make sure that the student is still there, then they usually get them together and, okay, he's coming back. Can you let him in? Yeah, I can. So yeah,
That's an interesting system. I would have never thought of using breakout rooms for discipline. Like, all right, we're going to breakout rooms right quick, and then you just
yeah,
hop in, and you're the only one in there with them. Like, oh, dog, this for me. Got it.
yeah. Yeah. And I think that when I started to use that, I realized, like, oh, just because I'm not physically with them does not mean that like that there isn't respect there, right? And I if I could be completely transparent, when I when the first child cried, I was like, oh, Lola, you got it. You got it. And it not in the sense that I made them cry. That wasn't the intention. Okay. But the fact that whatever, the interaction and how we were engaging moved them to a point where they were emotional. I said, okay, like it made me realize, no, I still have the ability to command their attention and get them to be where I want them to be. And so just because I'm virtual doesn't mean, the influence or effect that I had in person is completely gone. It's just different, right? And so yeah, those breakout rooms it was what I would do if I was in a real classroom. Step outside, because at that point you don't want to, I don't want everybody in your business. I don't. And then if I need to get on you, I don't want to do that in front of other children, because then that can ruin my relationship with other children as well. And then also just it may embarrass the child that I'm getting onto or whatever. And look, my job is to redirect you, say what I got to say, move on. But I don't want to redirect you in a way that's going to damage the relationship that I've built with you, right? Because at the end of it all, like, my children they're people. And so I want to maintain that their personhood in the classroom and how I deal with them. So yeah, if I was in a physical classroom, step outside. They know, oh man, let me step out. So my step outside is boop, breakout room. At 5 minutes, come back. And nobody has to know what we talked about other than me and you. And as if I see that they've gotten it together, I will publicly say, thank you for your reset. You know, um, and I'm okay with doing that part publicly because it's a positive. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'll try to keep public praise, praise public. And if I need to redirect or reprimand, I try to keep that private as much as possible. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So when you made the student cry, how did you I guess, rectify the situation? I know you personally. I just
Yeah,
don't feel
yeah.
like, oh, she made a student cry. She's terrible. I know you would never do that. I know,
Yeah,
like, and I realized it's probably your first moment, like, you didn't realize how intense you could come off virtually. Like,
yeah,
and I was like, oh, snap, let me draw back a
yeah,
little bit because this virtual ain't no game. So
yeah.
how did you deal with that moment?
Um, so in that moment, once I realized that my student was emotional, I was like, all right, you need to give her the heat and then you back off, right? Because that's what I would do in person. I would give you whatever heat, whatever fire I needed to bring in that moment, and then I would back off and return in a soft manner. Um, and it's kind of like you're sandwiching. If you think about a sandwich, right? You have your first layer of bread, you got your meat, and then you got your second layer of bread. So I may start off light, but then by the time I get to what I really need you to know, it's a little hot in there. Okay. So then you get emotional and there's a response. But then I always make sure that I come back and let them know that whatever I've said to them is rooted in love. I'm genuinely not doing anything to um break you down or tear you down or make you feel like you're not valued or worthy or anything like that. And so, I explicitly say, hey, I need you to understand that this is an issue or a problem that I needed to address because it affects this and this and this. I value explaining to children what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I know some people don't like that, but I value the explanation because it helps them understand the why, right? If I never tell the why, then it just can come across. They just have the opportunity to create whatever story that that they're feeling. But giving them the why or an explanation helps them understand my side, right? And it helps them understand why I came the way I came. So in that moment, I returned and let her know why I was saying what I was saying, why I was getting on to her, that I cared about her. But then I also opened up the floor. Do you feel like I've done something in error? Whenever I reprimand my kids, I always give them that opportunity. Hold on, let me say always. Most of the time, like 99, 95%. The other 5% is when, mm-mm. Mm-mm. You know, but that 95% of the time I do a lot, open the floor and say, hey, do you think I've said or done anything in error? Um, did I make a mistake? Do you think that I've said something that is inaccurate? And, sometimes they say no, sometimes they say yes, and then that yes leads into a conversation about what I may not have understood or may not have, grasped or known prior to our, that interaction. So yeah, in that moment, when I saw that she was emotional, let her know. I gave the explanation, let her know why. And then I also just asked, do you think I was wrong? And so usually that last question allows them, it's kind of like they have some buy-in, and it gives them an opportunity to not be silenced. If I was wrong, because sometimes you can be wrong as a teacher. You may get on the kid and the kid didn't do anything. Right? But they may be that student for you that's always into something, and so you just got onto them, or you may not know why. So it just allows them the opportunity to explain and say, "Hey, Mr. Ajayi, I really wasn't doing anything," or "My mom kept calling me, and I knew I had to tell you, but she kept calling me, and I didn't want to get in trouble." And so, then I can adjust. We can have an adjustment in that moment. So yeah.
I think what you're doing is great because that gives one, it takes an adult to admit that they can be wrong. So giving a child the opportunity to like, nah, Mr. Jai, you wrong.
Yeah.
That ain't what happened. What happened was
You're right.
Sheila over here was joking with me in my chat box, and I was trying to keep it together. So you need to get on anyway.
Yeah.
We could crack jokes the whole time, but I
Right.
get what you're doing. Like, it makes sense. It gives them agency as children to explain themselves because you don't want to be, as we know, you don't want to be a teacher who's just like, you did wrong. This is your punishment. You need to get your act together and get out of my face. Bye. It's like,
Right.
okay, you did wrong, but I could be wrong. And we're, as adults, we're wrong too. And I think students look to us as like always being right. And so
Right.
letting them know, like, we ain't got it all as adults. So let me know if I'm in the wrong. So I think that's a value lesson that you're giving to them.
Yeah. I mean, I teach a lot of minority students, and the majority of them are African American. And just knowing our culture, and with how at least my parents and my parents have, how disciplined and how they like corrected us and things like that. It was a silent thing. Like, no, I told you what to do and you didn't do it. There's no room for conversation. And in that moment, you silence a child, and they don't have, like, they have to bottle those emotions, and bottled up emotions are never good, right? Even as adults, they're not good for us. And so as adults, if I have an outlet to release those emotions, why not do it the same thing for a child? The difference between a child and an adult, or one difference, is just that they're a smaller human. They haven't been here as long. But some of those basic things still exist. Just because they're a child doesn't mean they don't get angry, or doesn't mean that they don't have real emotional experiences. And for all I know, or might not know, a child may have and um, maybe in the home situation where there's already a lot of hostility and trauma and stuff like that. And so the not silencing them, and the explaining to them, like, telling them why I do what I do. I'm trying to, in those moments, what I'm trying to offset is what may be potentially happening at the house, right? And that's not for all students, right? I don't want anyone to hear me say all of my students come from traumatic backgrounds. That's not true. But it is true that some of them do, right? That some of them have been in those spaces. And so I want them to use their voice, because that's important to me. I want them to always be able to tell me whether or not I've done something to dishonor them, right? Whether that be if I gave a consequence that wasn't fair, or if I got onto them, or maybe even sometimes I give the praise to the wrong person. Now, some of my students, they will be like, well, Mr. John, I thank you for, shouting me out, but that wasn't me. That was so and so. And so I just want them to use their voice. I don't want them to be afraid to tell me, oh, I just don't want them to be afraid to tell me how they feel. And so those are ways that I do that, knowing that they may be in spaces where, like, culturally, they may, you're a kid. What do you got to say that's gonna be important to me, an adult? You know, and yeah. So I want that agency to be built. I want those voices to be used, and I want them to also own the fact that they feel the way they feel. Right now, does it give you a license to do? Yeah, that's another conversation. Either way, I want them to own how they feel. And one way that they can own that is by being able to express, hey, I feel this way as a result of you saying this, right? That may not have been my intention to make them feel that certain way, but at least I've given them the space to say, hey, Mr. Jai, you did this, this, and this, and it made me feel this way. And so I also learned as an adult what to do and what not to do, right? Having those conversations help me, um, be able to adjust in real time. Okay, Lola, you can't talk to the kids like that. Or next time, you should probably ask a question before you go in and assume, right? Or, it just, again, it gives me real time feedback about how to address things with my students on the individual level and then as a whole. So, yeah.
Nice. And makes me think of parental involvement, parental households, financial hardships. What has been your experience with students and their families? And have you experienced any students having, you probably have students whose parents are essential workers who might have been put out of
Mhm,
work. What
mhm.
have you experienced and what has your school done to help those families?
Oh, yeah. So this is definitely it's a complex thing. On one hand, this is probably the best year that I've been teaching in terms of my parent communication. I cannot tell you, like, just being able to tell my parents what's going on. I try, because we're not physically in the room. I definitely try to um, communicate more with my parents and tell them what, if a student is doing well, if something needs to be done or something needs to be corrected and all of that, right? I let them know, I try my best to let them know as often as I can. And so that, along with them also hearing me, again, some parents are actually in the house with them and they may from time to time circle back and, yeah, they might be checking on the student, but sometimes, let's be real, they're also checking on me. To make sure that I'm doing my job or that I'm not talking to that kid crazy, because it happens. So with that, I've gone. This is again, it's the best year I've had in terms of getting that parental feedback. Mr. Jai, thank you, or Mr. Jai, I don't understand this. We just have those lines of communication open, and so I think it has forced me to have valuable and significant relationships with my parents, and it's been great. This year has been great in regards to that. But then the other piece is that you usually, I still have about, I'd say about a handful of parents where it's just really hard to get in touch with them, and so that part is definitely the challenging part, because I don't know why. I don't always know. Yeah, you can say, oh, they're working and they have several different children that they have to take care of and, provide for, right? But ultimately, I don't know why I can't, like, what may be keeping that parent from me or from listening to me and things of that nature. And so that is challenging, especially when the child is a child who needs as much assistance as possible, right? And I mean, to be frank, some of those children, some of those parents who I have those issues with, those communication issues with, are children who really do. They need the extra help. And so that part is challenging because you're trying to understand that parents have to be at work. They have to do what they have to do. And some parents have had to pick up additional jobs to take care. of their, their households, which makes it even more challenging. At that point, yeah, I know I need to talk to my student's teacher, but if I'm tired after working for the majority of the day, and I came home to several different children asking me for things, um, to talk to my kid's teacher for whether it's a nice note or not, it's just, I don't look. You just fall on the totem pole of things that need to get done, and so those moments are challenging. But even still, I try to maintain the mindset that, hey, they're a parent, and so at least I have to do my job of making sure they know. Even if they read the text message and don't get back to me, at least they know. They know a portion of what I needed them to know. And so yeah, that's been challenging to be gracious to parents in situations like those, to be understanding and flexible, um, and then be I guess be more free in terms of giving my time. Maybe some parents can talk to you within that whole 9 to 5 window. Some parents, because of whatever, they 9 to 5 may not work for them. So if you get a text message at 7 or 8, if it's that parent, if it's a particular parent, I'll usually make an exception for them. I mean, it's they're doing the best they can. So yeah, I try to be gracious and I try to be understanding, because I'm a teacher. I don't have any children of my own. Every child that I care for, whether it be a child in my family or a child through work, I give back. So I got temporarily have that child. And so I do. I have to be very cognizant of the fact that some parents are at home, like they work and they have children in the house with them, and so that's just the added layer of just stuff.
Got you. And for those families who are maybe having financial hardship, does your school have resources in place to help them out?
It depends. So of course we have, district wide stuff that's offered. So they have the different meal options, and I don't forgive me, I don't know what the EBT stands for, but it's something that they have. So, and I think that's a card where, they get some extra assistance with in terms of buying groceries. But every week, Thursday and Friday, our school is a pickup site for additional meals. So, like the meals that they would be getting at school, they package those things and give those out. And that's a mixture of dry goods, frozen foods, and actually, fresh produce. So parents usually come through and pick those up. And then, maybe if there's like some tech issues or things like that, they have a system where they accommodate the students or try their best to accommodate the students with those things. But yeah, if it's, and then also, some of that is case by case. Some parents or some families are in more need than others. And so we don't necessarily have a set system. But if we notice that there's a family that really just needs some extra, the school, does what they can, or do school does. Yeah, I think.
I got what you mean. And for those
Okay.
students who maybe fall into the cracks or maybe like not, you can't reach their parents, do you have an administrator or somebody in your school that does like check-ins with your students, or is that like left
Yeah.
upon you?
Yeah, so we have a dean of student and family engagement, and so if something really becomes an issue, we automatically, we're supposed to reach out to that administrator and let that administrator help. And then we also have a dean of special populations, and so those right off bat, you have two immediate sources, and then of course, if there's something's like super sensitive, then we go straight to the assistant and assistant principal and the principal. So there are administrators that are tasked with taking care of those needs. If we as teachers have like, hey, you know, I've tried my best. I don't know what's going on. Have you heard anything? Can you help me out with this? And our school is really good about that, about communicating, hey, we got this call in, or we know this, or we learned this, and we just want to pass this on so that and then vice versa. There are several deans in the building where if I haven't seen the child after so many days, and I can't get in contact with the parent or anyone in the family, I say, hey, have you heard? I haven't seen so and so. Some they haven't logged in so many days. So yeah, we have in house. We have administrators who are responsible for going further and checking in on students to see what's going on and then how we can help.
Got it. And so let's talk future.
Mhm.
So you've been teaching virtually. What are some methods that you will take from your virtual teaching into the classroom when you do return to the classroom?
Well, one, I do hope that our school continues to use the technology at this point. So prior to this year, my school was not at a one-to-one student uh, device ratio. And so now we are. And so I hope that that continues, because then um, I just see more autonomy, right? And then especially for my set of students, I teach fifth grade, and so they're on that cusp of finishing elementary school, going into middle school, and so independence and just autonomy is really big in my classroom in terms of socially what I try to teach and instill in my kids. And so that could look like, all right, we may start a portion of a lesson physically working together, and then they finish that on their own, maybe doing some additional research, or maybe we start class, everybody watch this video, answer these questions, get your do now in that way, and then our whole group lesson or class will begin with our whole group lesson after you've done that part on your own. So it just allows for a little bit more autonomy, right? And then even in terms of data collection, one thing that I am already considering, um, a couple things I'm considering, I'm actually excited to see how it's going to pan out. So the first thing is doing more of a hybrid model in terms of their work. So if I know something is a practice and we're going through something, they're just learning a concept, I want them to do that on paper. And then when we're actually going into maybe a test or a quiz, something that I want to extract data from, I want them to do that online. What we've been doing previously is doing everything online. And so I've also noticed it doesn't give or create any urgency around those things that I really do need them to do, because everything is on the computer. But if I separate, hey, you do this in your books, your actual workbooks, and then finish, like, you do this quiz or this test or this show me what you know, this SWIC on line, then it'll create, at least the hope is that it will create some urgency around completing those tasks and getting them done in a quality fashion. But the other thing is, so I actually have a cousin of mine who works in healthcare information management. So she was telling me about essentially like these project management approaches. And essentially, you have a platform that you use where all of the tasks, maybe, let's say, for example, their company has contracted them to do some work that's going to take an entire year to complete. Well, instead of, waiting, giving it to you at the beginning of the year and then coming and checking at the end of the year whether or not you did it, they break all of those tasks down into smaller parts. So it takes a year, like, big picture, it takes a year, but everything gets broken down into smaller tasks. So this portion of whatever we need to do within the year happens within 2 weeks. Then once we complete that, we move to another 2 weeks or another 4 weeks. I hope this makes sense. Does it make sense? Yeah. Okay. So essentially, what I'm getting at is like taking this project management approach to the classroom, right? One of the things that I've noticed with my students is that they get overwhelmed. Um, And I mean, it makes me question whether or not they were overwhelmed before. Were they overwhelmed with the amount of work that they had to do before, and I just didn't recognize it, right? Was this an overamount? Yeah, was this an overwhelming amount of work? Period. And so moving forward, both virtually and I get, whenever we return to the classroom, my hope is that I will get better at breaking things down into smaller pieces so that it's more manageable for students, so that they're not as overwhelmed, and also so that they have real time feedback and real time wins. It's a lot more motivating for a student to see they just learned the concept, and let's say that they took a 5 question quiz. Okay, they get a 4 out of 5, or 5 out of 5. Okay, I got that part. Yeah, I learned that. Let me move on to the next thing, right? And then for my students who are independent learners, like it just, I have these tasks set out for them to do. They know what to do. They can go on and don't have to wait, right? Those that may need a little more assistance, if they wherever they get stuck, I can come in and help them, right? And then those who really just need me to sit down with them, I can walk them through the whole thing. But having that the project management approach almost, I think will allow me to just better cater to the students and then provide opportunities for students to um, self-teach, right?
Yeah.
They're able to do their work at the pace that they need to do it in. They get to see whether or not they got something right, or what they need to work on before they go to the next major task, so that when they get to the next major task, whatever they were supposed to learn previously, they've learned, or they've been exposed to that, and then they can go into that next thing, right? It just kind of closes, at least my hope is that it'll close the gap of not retaining. It'll close the gap of having to do everything whole group and potentially losing students who are just like, man, I need to know if I can move on, because if not, I'm about to find something else to do. It's not on task. So, yeah, the valuing of technology, utilizing that technology to have a hybrid system, and then within the hybrid system, being able to create kind of like, yeah, um, using some project management frameworks to get students through the work that they need to do. Yeah.
Kind of like, I mean, it's similar to like adult work. You're just preparing them early. People might be like,
Yeah.
oh, we don't want to stop treating children like adults, but you're also just equipping them with skills early on to manage
Yeah.
their time and manage their work so they're not, as you said, overwhelmed with stuff. So,
Yeah.
like an Asana or a Trello or those type of systems that just kind of like, all right, here's what's next. This is what you got to do. This one is due. I think it's a good idea. Um, and on the flip side, what are you not going to do in the classroom anymore?
Ooh, what am I not going to do? Mm.
Or what is something that you have to do virtual that you will not do in the classroom?
So whenever we go back to being in person, one thing I definitely won't do is teach writing virtually or on a computer. It's just hard. It's hard. I'm not even gonna shoot. It is hard, okay, and it's hard because I know that a lot of it just comes down to me and the way I teach. I am very thorough and meticulous, and teaching online or teaching that kind of skill virtually is just challenging for me, and I have not. If I figure it out, it may be something I can do virtually, but right now it is teaching students how to like word things, and that really just comes down to thinking. And sometimes, like, I don't know, teaching students how to think is just difficult. So teaching writing is definitely not something, and being able to analyze their written work, I don't enjoy that virtually, not at all. And so that, like, off top, is something that I can definitely say I'm not going to do in a hybrid or in-person setting. You're gonna do that on paper. And I think there's some value too. Everybody's not kinesthetic, but writing is one of those things where I think it just definitely helps to have a pen and paper and go through that process, the writing process that way versus being 100% digital. It's something about being able to touch a pen and like write. Um, that I think translates those skills a lot better. But then also, let's see, I'm trying to think of something culture wise, something that I've done. So culture wise, I think because we've been virtual, I've had to again be more cognizant of the emotional state of my students. Before, not that I wasn't cognizant, I was. Okay, I was. But there were moments where I think there were a lot more times where I was just like, you know what, look, you about to get it. And so the whole public reprimand, and I know that they teach you not to do that, but sometimes it's necessary. But I think in person I would do that a lot more, whereas now I just, I can't. Um, I can't. And so I don't know if that's answering that second question or that first question, but um, culture wise, I think that I would just, yeah, the public reprimands. I won't be doing that. I started that somewhat at the beginning of this semester, and I quickly realized this.
When you spoke of the writing, I think it makes sense because like fifth graders, first we're on a computer. Do fifth graders know how to type yet? I feel like when I was in school, we took typing classes starting in fifth, sixth grade ish. So like then trying to learn and then process and think about sentences and sentence structure and what's a predicate and what's a subject and verbs, adverbs, all that good stuff on a computer while you're
Yeah.
also you're doing this.
Hmm.
You don't know how to type is difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, that writing experience is probably a lot easier for them with a pen, with a pencil and a piece of paper. So I definitely
Hmm.
see where that could be troubling and difficult to teach right now.
Yeah.
Um, but what has been a bright moment, your favorite moment this semester?
Oh, there there is actually one student who at the beginning, this student and I had a run in. Okay. And you usually get one. You get one whether you in person or not. Okay. You get one good one. And so she's been my one. We had a run in at the beginning of the school year, and I had to let the sister know we are not going to do that. But if I'm 100% transparent, she's also challenged me on quite a few things, and I've had to, big word, acquiesce. I've just had to lay down. I've had to just give it up. And so this student, it has been so amazing to watch the confidence, like the evolution of their confidence in themselves. And this student is actually a young lady, and um she didn't like to be challenged. She didn't like to know that she was wrong. She had, got a little element of perfectionism. And she was just like, I don't do hard things. I don't do things if I know I'm going to fail. And I'm like, sister, we I don't know how you expect to get through the rest of this life, like not even school year, but just the rest of life. I don't know how you really plan on making it because you continue to live. Okay, you're at some point there's going to be something, and at several points there'll be something that's going to challenge you. And so just the growth of her confidence in her abilities, her herself, and knowing that she is capable and owning that has been wonderful to see. And so I think the cherry on top was when um she was nominated to run for vice president for our student Student Government Association, and the students had to create speeches and record themselves. And so, in her speech, she alluded to Kamala Harris. Now, and this is a side note. Because of Kamala Harris, and her ethnicity and background and all of that, I wondered what kind of cultural impact she would really have, right? Um, yeah, you can see, she means different things to different people, but for that to be like concrete and tangible in front of me, it was great to see, because I wondered what real social impact would she have on people. And for this African American little girl, like Kamala Harris, I mean, has meant a lot. She's meant or represented women being in spaces that traditionally they're not in, right? Women being in power positions that they're traditionally not in, women being on in platforms that they're traditionally not in or not recognized in, like, in mainstream ways. And so for my student to see herself, to see Kamala Harris and then see herself and say, hey, there's a connection here, and then talk about that and articulate that in an SGA vice president speech, like, and she's only in the fifth grade, like, that's amazing. But it also speaks to just how confident she's become. The fact that she can even think about equating herself to Vice President elect Kamala Harris, like, oh, okay. So you feeling yourself just a little bit. Okay. So I mean, it's been great to see her evolve. And we're not even through the whole year yet. This has only been half a school year. And she's come so far. And so when I think about that, I get very, very humbled, but it is exciting to know that at least one now, so I still got like 30 some kids, but at least one has grown in spite of these conditions. And that, yeah, that's great to see. It's great to know.
I mean, it's kind of dope that you got to see in action, in person. I guess not in person, virtually.
Yeah.
Your student really grasp the importance of having Kamala Harris be elected to vice president. Because
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I remember when Obama was elected back when I was in high school. And I remember how students acted at my school, and like, but not in the sense of I believe I can be in leadership because Kamala's in leadership. Like that wasn't something that was, especially not in fifth grade. Like that's just huge.
Mm,
Um, and so I don't kind of want to take on the other side. What's been a low point for you this semester?
a low point. Man, just being overwhelmed. Um, I think one of the greatest lessons I've learned about myself, and this is in like in general, is my inclination to just get overwhelmed. And that really is it just comes down to me knowing that I may have a large task at hand, and instead of thinking about the steps up the mountain, I will only see the mountain. And because I see that mountain, I will either not do, or I will run in the opposite direction. And that's not, neither one of those are great options, right? Because you still got to get over the mountain, right? But being just the sheer size of things, or yeah, just the sheer size of things, or thinking about, oh, I got 15 different things to do for this is like completely done. That has been a struggle, to find strategies, to find strategies, to find the balance, to even find the motivation to be like, okay, hey, chill, relax. It's okay. Like, it is going to be okay. You are safe. Relax. And so, and it does not help that being connected to devices all the time, like, and I was expressing this before I left, and part of why I've kind of like been so adamant about disconnecting these last couple of weeks is that I'm literally in front of a device all day. Okay, I have to work on this device. I have my own personal, you know side businesses, projects, things of that nature that require me to be in front of this device, whether I'm talking to someone or not. But then I also use a device for leisure, right? I'm in front of a screen all the time, whether it's a TV screen, a computer screen, or a phone screen. And this year, or since we've started school, like it just seems like it is, I'm always in front of someone or in front of or taking in someone else's thoughts or and it just again it's overwhelming. And so there was a point in the semester where I was just like, I need to disconnect. And I mean, like I'm not gonna call, like my phone is not available for phone calls or text messages. Like I'm completely silencing devices because I can no longer be engaged with them. And I don't think that's anything we thought about before, just the sheer amount of time that we're spending in front of these devices on top of whatever leisure or outside projects we got, going on. And so it's been challenging to not get overwhelmed or to be overwhelmed and then find myself walking away from that overwhelming state. Um, and then the other thing is just being in front of a device all the time.
So thinking of that, of being overwhelmed and time spent on devices, do you think your school has equipped you with the necessary resources to continue your work efficiently? And when I say resources, that could be time as well, like prepping periods and things of those nature.
Genuinely, I like to think, or I think that my leadership team, my school, likes to think that they have, but in actuality, no. And I just think that a lot of that just comes down to this is a completely new space, and so everybody's having to navigate this in a new way. But the things that I am finding, I'm honestly finding those strategies on my own. Um, it would be nice to have an additional planning period where I didn't have to do anything other than take a break. Right, my planning period is given to me, but it's also kind of assumed that I'm going to spend that planning period working on grading or uh, prepping an assignment or something like that. It's assumed that I'm going to be working because the mindset is okay. Well, if you do it during the school day, you won't have to do it while you're at home. But it's unrealistic for me to walk in at 7:30, spend my first 20 minutes of my day prepping. Yeah, I may take a small, we take brain breaks during the block, but if I don't have that moment to like completely decompress from the morning to the afternoon, that's unrealistic. I'm human. Like I need a point where I just not do nothing. you know, I need a point where I can just walk away and completely disconnect and that be okay. Um, and then also not have to worry about, oh, if I take this break now, I'm gonna have to spend another 2 hours on this when I get to the house. Nobody wants to do that, but I mean, that's where we are right now. So the short answer is not really.
Okay. And amidst the pandemic, March, May, June, July, August, September, I mean, be a continual thing.
Yeah.
There was a resurgence of focus on Black lives and
Mhm.
social injustices that are happening against Black people in America. At any point during your semester, your teaching, have you had to have conversations with students, with colleagues, with administration about these issues? And what is your school doing to work towards anti-racism?
Man. So this is the part where if I was in a physical building, we would not miss a beat. Because I live in that space, right? And not that I haven't been living in that space virtually. It is just such a task trying to figure out how to teach these kids virtually and get them to retain something. Um, and then also to consider like the social aspects of that. And so there have been moments where I've gotten into conversations, but not anywhere near as in depth as I've been able to get in to them when we were in the physical class space. And there's several reasons for that. One, almost like the attention span of the kids. Like, sometimes it's just like, man, they ain't here for like, I'm not. Look, Mr. Giant, we don't want to talk about that today. We don't. Which is real because sometimes you don't want to talk about it. That's real. But then also I have to constantly be mindful of the fact that I'm in their home. Okay. If you were in my classroom, there would be some element of confidentiality that we could have where we could just be real, right? But when I'm in someone else's home, I mean, some people might walk up in there and, live how they live, regardless of what their space. But you just not ever sure what parents are, what kind of parents, what kind of conversations parents want their kids to be having. I hope that makes sense. Um, so yeah, you're in people's homes and you just don't know. You don't know whether or not this is going to go well, or if a parent is going to get upset, because that's a real thing. Parents get upset and they have a right to. It's their child, and so maybe they don't want their children exposed to certain things. But then also as a school, honestly, I think that we could do more. I really do. I think that there should be more of a conversation, like the fact that I don't think the responsibility for having these social conversations and opening our kids' eyes should fall solely on me as a teacher. I think that the entire school should have their responsibility. Okay, you all know what demographic we teach. Why is this not? And you know what kind of teachers in your building, you know who we teach, you know the areas that our students are from. Our students are in fact seeing some of these things. Yes, they're young, but I mean, they're not too young to have certain aspects, like certain conversations about certain aspects about these things, right? And so I think that there could be more. I think that our students should be able to go into a school where it is culturally safe for them to exist the way that they exist. I think, not even think, man, I'm past thinking. I believe that they deserve and that they should have that luxury. They should have that privilege of being taught. Like, it should not be, we shouldn't wait till February to have talks about Black history. And the fact that we still doing that in 2020 is nonsense. And the fact that you order or structure my curriculum um where you don't even give me the space to do that. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it, and it's frustrating. It is really frustrating to not have that room, to not have that leeway. I do try my best, but honestly, my best this year is not what I would like to. I would. It's not what I would like for my kids to have, because I know that years prior I've been able to do this, even in the circumstances that I work in. I've been able to do this at a better capacity. But as a whole of where I am right now, where I work, could we be doing more? Absolutely. And the kids deserve it. They deserve to have these conversations. They deserve to be able to even just be thinking about it. They may not have an opinion now, but they might have an opinion in a couple months. you know, they should have that space to even just tinker with fire, if you will. But we're not even allowing them to even see the flame, and I think that that's an area of disservice.
Yes, I agree. Um, I've had this conversation, and just it's like you want to have this conversation with students, but as you said, parent, you're basically in their house. One, two, what is the correct amount or method of having this conversation with 10-year-olds? Granted, some of them see these in situations in their everyday lives, so yeah, I get that. Um,
Yeah, I mean, just in years past, like, I've been able now, probably I will forever. I look, this set of kids, man, they were phenomenal. And it wasn't just one kid, right? Each kid brought their own flavor to the group, but the group as a whole was, I mean, stellar. And that was one. It had a lot to do with the fact that I inherited a group that was already primed for that. Right, their fourth grade teacher was a fantastic, and not was because she's not bad. She's still living and she's still working. She is a fantastic is an understatement. The woman is just phenomenal, man. She kills it. She kills the game. Okay, she does the job well. Okay. So that year prior to me, they already had a teacher who rolled in the same vein, and so it wasn't anything new by the time they got to me, right? So the fact they were already prepped and primed, but then, and so because they were already prepped and primed, I was able to dive deeper, right? We could talk about the fact that our curriculum, even though it is a wonderful curriculum, it is a curriculum for the fifth grade year where they don't talk about Black people at all. Okay, the majority of the curriculum is European history. Out of 9 units, two of them talk about Native Americans, which is great because that's another story that doesn't get told often. Uh, One unit talks about ancient Native Americans, Maya, Aztec, Inca. We end the school year talking about Native Americans within the continental U.S. So I'm not mad about that. I love it, right? Um, so there are 2 units that deal with Native American or indigenous peoples. Um, one unit on poetry, one unit on literature, whatever. Well, a coming of age story, and I guess either way, yeah. But the rest of it deals with European history. We talk about the Italian Renaissance, the Reformation, the we talk about Shakespeare. We talk about Don Quixote, which both Shakespeare and Don Quixote are connected to just European history. And so that year they were able, and the year after they were able to like, "Huh, this is a problem. Why am I not taught? We all know ancient African history, African American history exists. Why am I not being taught this? You spent your entire year telling me about Europeans. That has like, not that it doesn't have anything to do with them, but that's not going to help them see themselves. That helps them look outside, but not look inside. It doesn't help them foster an appreciation for their city. It doesn't help them foster an appreciation for themselves or where they've come from, what they do, their culture that they live in now. Like that doesn't foster that. So, I've had years. My last few years have been fantastic years in being able to communicate that. But this year I have found the challenge because it just comes. It's like you got to get. We started late. We start instead of like the beginning of August. We started at literally the last day of August, going into September. So, it's like this rush to get through curriculum, but with rushing to get through curriculum and curriculum that our students to some degree still don't grasp, where's the time to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel bad about that. Like I hate the fact that I'm not being able to like that. I haven't figured out a way to find that balance and give them that. So yeah, it's just look, I can go on and on and on and on and on and on about the. So,
And so, have you had any students in particular impacted by COVID-19?
what do you mean, like
Loss of
financially or?
family members at all? If you guys have to
Yes,
deal with that at
yes, yes,
school?
yes, yes, yes. Man, there was like a 2 to 3 week, nah, like a 3 to 4 week period where there were 2 students in particular who were like out all the time. I mean, they had a death in the family, like back to back to back. And if it wasn't a death, it may have been like a death and then somebody going into the hospital and then somebody coming out of the hospital, but then somebody passing away. And so that was hard because these little humans um are having to deal with very like heavy things in terms of like knowing somebody and then realizing, oh, you're not here anymore. Like, how do I process that? What do I do with that? The fact that I won't be able to see you anymore. So yeah, there have been multiple students who have, if not one, more than one, have experienced more than one, um, I guess, instance of someone passing away or getting sick because of COVID. So yeah,
Don't know how to process it. I don't know how y'all teachers work with students. Like, there's got to be a whole situation. I got to like work. Do you like? Are you gonna make up this work? Is that necessary in this pandemic for you to make up this little bit
yeah,
of work that
yeah.
you
I
want to?
mean, and honestly, at that point, I just take your time. I mean, because I've also personally experienced two deaths myself. Um, and they were unexpected, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with this, right? And so one in particular I learned about or found out about while I was at work, and I was not able to finish out the day, and so for children, it's just like, man, I'm not about to ask you. I'm, if it's something that we can afford for you to not have to like be concerned about right now, I'm not going to ask you to do it. I'm not. I can circle back. I really can. I can make time to come back to you and teach you this thing. But yeah, it's been a challenge to know, like, how do you even talk to the parents at that point? You know, how do I engage with a parent who's lost maybe a sister or an uncle or somebody, a mom? Yeah, that's difficult. It's tough. It's for sure tough.
Wow. Uh, First, I want to say sorry for your losses and your families. And like in that sense, it's like you kind of take on the feelings for your students going through these issues, and you deal with them yourself. How
Mhm.
are you working to keep up your mental health?
Yeah. Honestly, I've had to become very adamant about my time. Like, I've had to pay attention. 7 o'clock in the evening, I'm no longer ready to do anything that's mentally taxing. Okay. Whether it's for myself or for work. I'm not. I'm no good at that point. The only thing I probably want to do is talk to somebody or, to check in or cook or, it's just something light, something pleasurable. But after 7 o'clock, I got a 2 hour window before I'm for real. Like, the only thing that I can think about is getting in bed. And that's not because I'm in like a depressive state or anything. It's just I've had to just recognize, like, I got to give myself a break, and I cannot go from Monday to Friday before I give myself a break. I have to have a daily break. And so I watch those time markers, if I know that I need to get something done, it better get done before 7. If I know that there's something that I want to enjoy or, yeah, something I want to use as a pleasure source or outlet or whatever, 7 to 9. After 9, it's lights out. And so yeah, I think the biggest thing has just been realizing I can't wait until the weekend to give myself a break. I got to give myself a break every single day. And I have to honor my rest. And then too, getting up in the morning. I mean, it's the crack of dawn. It's before dawn. Okay. But centering myself spiritually has helped me. Like, man, without my spirituality, like, I would be no good. I would be no good for myself or for anyone else. And so being able to check in with the Lord, okay, and allow Him to collect all my soul, it really does. It enables me to be able to um, learn how to give and give in a way that is satisfying and fulfilling, right? When you giving in a way, and then not just giving, learning how to be gracious, being slow to anger, like learning how to forgive in a real sense. So yeah, it- I have to have those times, and those times have allowed me, having those times and having those times daily, allow me to be centered, and then be of some value to other people. So yeah.
I'm gonna switch over to technology real quick. I'm
Okay. Come on
gonna
with
come
it.
back to what we were just talking about.
All right.
What? So you said y'all weren't one to one before, but you are one to one now with devices.
Mhm.
What technologies are you using? And did you slash your students have to learn how to use this technology?
Yeah. Yes, yes, and yes. So of course the device we have is a laptop, and the younger students have
Tablets.
tablets. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They have tablets. Um, so good. Yeah, my students have laptops, and on the laptops we use primarily Zoom for the video conferencing. We use Google Classrooms, which is where all of our classwork is housed. But then additional things or platforms that we use, Class Dojo, of course. YouTube is a big one, just for video learning. Khan Academy, which is a lifesaver. Um, look, Shay, you know me. I'm sorry. Khan Academy, Reworks. Uh, I don't ever know how to pronounce it. Newzella or Newzla, that platform.
Oh, okay.
Um, what else do we use? There was a we started using at the beginning of the year, what is it, Google CS or CS first, where it literally, it's like a coding platform where the students learn how to do code. They do these assignments, um but in the process of completing the assignment they learn how to do coding and things like that. But we haven't used that platform in a while. But yeah, so all of those platforms, at least for ELA and social studies. And yes, did my students have to learn how to use that? Yes. Did I have to learn how to use them? Yes, from a teacher point of view, and also from a student point of view, because the student and teacher interfaces look different. So yeah, there was a lot of each, man, even how to type, man. Like that's a learning curve, or was a learning curve for the students. So yeah, a lot of the technologies that we've had to implement this year, students have had to learn how to utilize those.
Okay. And did you face issues where students, yes, have laptops, so they might not have internet at home? How did you guys work around that situation if you had that issue?
Yeah, no, we've definitely had that issue. And so families where the connectivity was bad, the school gave them hotspots. So they not only got devices, but they also got internet hotspots. Excuse me. To help with the connectivity. So that's one way that the technology aspect is at least providing for families in that sense. And then let's say if devices go out or whatever, of course we have a around the clock IT team, that's they got to service the kids for whatever the needs are. Um, Whether it be device related or like platform account related, all of that. So
Nice. I feel like that's a great help so you don't have to deal with it.
yeah,
Uh,
right.
and do you think your students are learning at the same pace as in person learning?
No, no, no. In part because, well, one, the way we ended the last school year, right? They completed 3 out of 4 quarters, and that fourth quarter was, and it was just, so when they came back, we already knew that there were going to be things that we needed to address. But then even with them being on these computers and the work we're doing now, No, again, just because of the nature of how they're receiving their instruction. It's completely different, and it's a lot of outside factors being that are at play here, and so it complicates the learning process. And then on top of where students really are, like, I mean, I'm some of it is technology related, but then other, if we're being honest, the other part is just where students are. Some students are not where they should be, and so that complicates things even more because now I'm having to think about, okay, I got this technology piece, but how do I assist a student who is needs to be brought up to speed several grades, you know?
Mm.
So,
And I know you and the teachers are technically working from the school, but are you guys in like physical spaces with each other? Are you having that communication like you had back in the day? And if not, what are you doing to kind of create that virtual teachers lounge to share strategies, just talk, be in community with each other?
so yes and no. You kind of hold still to where your pocket of people are. Um, so like I'm on the second floor, and it's only about one, two, three, four. It's four, five educators up there. So of course we typically stay in our rooms, and if I'm honest, there's only one person whose room I actually go into, and that's my co-teacher. So there's a little freedom there. So my co-teacher and I mean, we haven't missed a beat. We do what we do. And whether that's virtually or in person or via the phone or whatever. But for other educators in the building, and then just educators at other schools, the phone becomes a little bit more important. So if I need some assistance, or I'm curious, and really if I just want to check in on somebody, I may go down to somebody's room, of course, masked up and all of that, before you go in. Um, but then I also will just call, or use what we have a group me and all of that where we can do that. So if I need to check on somebody because I haven't spoken to them or seen them in a while, I'll make a phone call. Hey, how you doing? Things of that nature. Or can I get some assistance? We email back and forth. Hey, can you come help me with this or whatever? So yeah, we've kind of maintained that through, I guess, some old school ways, email, and then good old text message, phone call.
What are we in here? What are your hopes for next semester in education as a whole?
Man, I want my students to retain. I want my students to retain the information. I want them to be healthy. I don't like the fact that they are sedentary more, most of the day, and they're sedentary in front of the screen. Um, and health wise, I think that's a concern. But then if you also just think about interpersonal skills, right? If I'm so used to sitting down instead of getting up and being active, or moving and things of that nature, then there's some skills that like some mental skills, mindset skills that you don't get to take on. And so my hope is that one, um, I will continue to find effective ways to teach my students so that they retain. Whether that's from slowing down to repeating stuff 150 billion times, whatever the case may be, or even doing things in more of a fun way. Maybe I need to make more games. Like, I don't look, my hope is that they retain, because at the end of the day, I don't want virtual learning to be the reason why they didn't get what they needed. That's not okay with me. And so as much as I can offset that as possible, that's my hope. And then I want them, while they're learning and retaining, I want them to be healthy. All of us, I say most people, because some folks have messed around and lost weight. you know, some folks got their life. That's not the testimony for a lot of people, okay? So if you fall in that category, myself included, of needing to get your life together, I want us all to collectively get our lives so that we can be healthy, and so that when the world opens back up, for real, we can do what we need to do. We can go where we need to be or go where we want to go, and be healthy while there. So those are my two hopes.
In your career, yes, you're an educator now. Has COVID changed your career aspirations, or you just this is just your line of work and you plan to be here for the long haul?
Well, I'll definitely be in education for the long haul. COVID wasn't going to change. The only thing that's going to change that is when I peace out of here for real, okay? But I will always be in education. Now, and even before COVID, I didn't see myself as a teacher like long term, like a teacher in the sense of being in a classroom. Um, no, so that wasn't something that was changed by these circumstances. But I will say that these circumstances have definitely made me want to branch out and do so quicker. Um, so, I mean, even just from creating other streams of income or using the skills that I use with my students, or skills that I haven't necessarily been able to use with them, finding ways to still have an outlet because they're valuable skills for it. And so, for example, an example that is just my resume writing and professional application edits, all this stuff. Right. So I've started, or business has been picking up in regards to that. And so that allows me to do what I enjoy, which is edit papers, teach writing in a way that I know it sticks and lands. Um, because some of those things right now I cannot give to my students, or I have not figured out a way to give to my students. And so I still have that outlet, right? And that outlet is and some coin.
It's
So,
money resides.
so hello, where the money reside. Listen, Shane, don't start. Ah! Oh yeah. So COVID has definitely opened me up to um using more of my talents. So it's also helped me to refine um, some of uh, my goals. Like I really love being able to teach identity and have those conversations around education and identity formation. Right. I haven't been able to do that this year. So now I've had to consider, how do I still do this, even if I can't do it in the way that I've traditionally done it. Like this is still an outlet, still a need, so I need to be able to express it. So how do I do that? And so being able to like sit with things like that, COVID has made like forced me to have to do that. So I will forever be an educator, but the form that takes on, it's going to change. It'll change.
I've been reading some articles about just people's experience, teachers' experience teaching during a pandemic. A lot of them are saying, I'm exhausted, I'm burnt out.
Mhm.
You've gone through a semester and a quarter of virtual teaching. How do you feel? Are you burnt out? Are you exhausted? Is it great rejuvenating for you? Like, what's going on with you?
Well, right now, I can't say that I'm. I think before I went on break, I was exhausted, and that's real. I was like, no, phone where? Who's talking on the phone? Not me. Not me. You can't be talking about me. Like even just getting on social media. Who? And so before or at leading up to break, I was at a point where I was absolutely burnt out, absolutely exhausted, and it's like I just don't want to think about school. But now that I've been on break for I guess approaching a week and a half, I'm okay now. I've gotten my time. But even moving into the next semester, I know what I've already shared in terms about my day. I know that I need to be very serious about protecting those things. Um, and then even just with me being so prone to being overwhelmed and having anxiety, um, putting those things into action that I know are helpful, right? So if I know that I'm prone to looking at the whole mountain, be like, all right, Lola, you saw the mountain, come back away from the mountain. What what is true? What can you control? what has to be left for the Lord to decide, and letting that be, one of the ways that I deal with that. So yeah, it's been exhausting, but now that I have my time and I've been able to like rejuvenate and be restored, I think I'm okay.
And so you're in the South. You're in Memphis, the great city of Memphis.
Ah,
Well, I don't know about the great state of Tennessee, but the great city of Memphis, uh,
we'll say the M Town.
in town, 901, whatever.
Okay.
The city on the bluff city, some would say. Uh, what is the sentiment around COVID where you are? Because I'm just gonna speak from my perception of me not being in Tennessee. I have friends in Tennessee
Mhm.
who look like they just living their best life. Um, as if the pandemic's not really, it's like a slight awareness that it's there, but not really.
Mhm.
So what have you sensed about the city of Memphis and its sentiment around COVID-19?
So in my immediate circles, we are pretty adamant. Look, you better wear your mask, like, get it together. And so my immediate circles are um adamant about social distancing and just doing all of those protective measures, getting tested on a regular basis or as much as you can, things of that nature. But as a city or a county as a whole, because of our numbers, I mean, I have to say that people don't seem to be taking it serious. Otherwise, I mean, I'm inclined to believe if we were, that we wouldn't have numbers where we do, and so that's alarming and that's concerning because it's just like, man, come on, y'all. We know everybody is tired of being confined to certain spaces and not being able to live their lives to the fullest. But maybe right now you just need to redirect. It's not going to last forever, prayerfully. um, But just take a moment. Just take a moment. Just let us have this moment right here so we can regroup, and then you can go out and do what you need to do. But right now, it just seems like people are just like, well, it won't happen to me. And this is, I think that's reckless, because so many people have either gotten sick or passed. And at this point, I think everybody knows at least one or two. And so, um, maybe that awareness doesn't come until somebody loses somebody. And so, I mean, I would hate for that to be the case, but the sentiment just seems to be like, well, if it's not at home, it don't count. And it's just like, let it count before it gets home, please. you know.
And so that's all my questions. I do have some Instagram submitted questions that I want to ask you, and
Okay.
my questions to wrap this all up.
Okay.
I think I lied when I said we weren't going to make this a long conversation because I'm looking at the clock and it's been a little minute, but we're gonna see how long. We're gonna wrap it up and see how long it takes. So Instagram submitted questions. First one is, are you okay?
Am I okay? Yes, I would say I'm okay more often than I'm not okay.
Okay. How has the pandemic widened the opportunity gap in your purview slash at your school for the students?
How has it widened the opportunity gap for our students? Um, Honestly, uh, I don't know. I don't know that it has opened up anything. I mean, I think that it's exposed them to, obviously, to more technology, which is crazy because students, students may not figure out how to put a subject and predicate together, but they'll figure out how to be on the chat room at the same time that they on logged into the class on Zoom. They figure that. So I think in that sense, students have they just have more access to technology and they've had um, more opportunities to tinker. Like students have figured out how to record videos and play videos back in place of their camera and stuff. They found out how to do these really cool things that I didn't know how to do, and so I didn't teach them. So in that sense, I think um, tech wise, I would say that it's opened them up. Um, But of course, there could always be more opportunities made or presented to them.
That's actually a good. I haven't heard that one. That's actually really good. Like silver lining, our students are getting way more technologically advanced. So that's dope.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, yo, wait, not during class, man. Right? Not during class. Okay? Please don't do it during class.
I'm
But,
glad you
you
know
know,
it, but not right now.
not right now. I like that you knew how to walk somebody through that and you figured it out, but please, you're in class, So, yeah, I mean, it's great because somebody's going to learn how to do all these little cool things that will teach them how to be better gamers or game creators, because a lot of my students are into games. A lot of students are into like recording and things like that. Even like music is always a big part of fifth grade because myself and my co-teacher, we love music. And so like making beats and things like that, they found little software to do that. So I may have some music producers and some stuff come out of that. And so I guess I have to recant my initial answer. But tech wise, I think that the students have been able to um, get exposed to things that they otherwise would not um, be exposed to, or definitely not as soon. It may have come later down the line, but yeah.
Okay. How can individuals like me or like Brittany down the street, how can we help educators or educators as a whole?
Man, um, one is really basic. Check in on your educated friends. And sometimes it may be exhausting to listen like, oh my God, here they go again. But let your educated friends have those moments. Because it's, of course we can do that with other educators, but it's also helpful to talk to people who are not inside of education, because you guys have different experiences, different skill sets that ultimately we might be able to utilize, and it may be of benefit to us, and maybe personally or even work wise. Like for example, I was saying earlier, I talked to my cousin about, we were working on a resume, and she was telling me about the job that she does. And so she has a background in project management. And so I was like, girl, like, wait a minute, this is major. I could potentially use that. So you guys just have those conversations, check in, make sure they cool. But then also in those conversations, offer things that may work in your line of work, offer up approaches and things like that. Um, and I guess that's actually a really big way, especially for educators who are looking for innovative ways to stay on top of their work. Um, but then I think politically, uh, we just need more voices that advocate for teachers, like the realities of teachers, not stuff that's theoretical, not stuff that's hypothetical. We need more voices that are in these spaces to have political conversations about what teaching on the ground really looks like and what those needs are and how those needs could potentially be fulfilled. I mean, if we're busy working to teach the children, it would be nice to have advocates that see the work we're doing and can honor the work we're doing by saying, hey, teachers need more support here, or teachers need more. We need to look at reforming these areas and things like that. Being additional voices to those educated voices. So yeah,
I'm gonna take it a step further. Where do you need support?
where do I need support? Um, Tell me, Lola, it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
Thank you, Shane. I do need to hear that every now and again. Um, yeah, I would like to be connected with teachers just outside of my community, because everybody's going through something different. Or they're experiencing different circumstances, conditions, and just different people, right? So the more people you um, connect with, the more opportunities you just have to learn something. And I think in general, I would just like to have an expanded um, educator network. So if you know any educators I can get connected with, just to be friends or have contacts with, that would be awesome.
Okay. Um, What have been the best tools you've used to support virtual learning?
Best tools. Um, Definitely Google Classroom has been great, specifically the Google Forms uh, portion or platform of that, just because it gives such a great in the moment data breakdown. And so you can see all of, all of these different views of what students were or how they've performed on those different tasks. So I like Google Forms a lot. And then ReadWorks has also been really good to me as well for the same reason. They have more passages. I can use those for both reading and social studies. Um, and so using that platform again, once they go through a passage, you get the data breakdown, see what they missed, why they might have missed it, or things like that. And so Reworks, Google Forms are great for just the data breakdown, and I like that.
Got you. Have your expenses gone up due to, never mind, because you don't work from home? Do you at any point feel that your health was disregarded?
Do I feel like my health is disregarded? No, honestly, I think my school has done the best that they can with what they know. And even as at first, we actually didn't have that one day where we were working from home. We were 5 days in the building. And then one of our teachers advocated for the entire staff and suggested that we get um at least one day where we can, it's like a flex day where if we want to be home, we can stay home. If not, you can come to work. But with that, and then too, I think my leadership team really has done a good job of taking feedback that the teachers have provided or given, whether it be from one teacher or from multiple teachers, and really like pivoted in the moment, like made shifts or adjustments based on the feedback that they've gotten. And so, because of those things, I wouldn't say that they've disregarded my health at all.
Got you. Has your school helped provide resources for anti-racism courses or curriculum?
No, again, I would love if they did, but at the moment, no.
What has been the upside to online learning that couldn't have happened in a school setting?
I think just the innovation. You get trained to be innovative within a particular space, within a physical classroom space. And there's only so much innovation you can do within that box. I mean, sure, we didn't even reach, I think, the end of that, but being virtual um, has definitely pushed me and made me more have to think about things in a new way, have to create in a new way, and then have to provide for my students in a new way. And so all of those new things, I think, have definitely made me a better teacher, a better instructor. Although, I mean, albeit it's been challenging at points, but nonetheless, I've grown and evolved as a result of it. So.
Okay. And those are the rest of the Instagram questions. I just have a few quick, fun questions that can be one word answer or however long you want your answers to be. So it's up to you.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
what was your favorite subject in school?
Favorite subject in school? English, specifically AP English Language and Literature.
Okay. Favorite dish to cook or restaurant to eat at in Memphis?
Favorite restaurant, Gus's Fried Chicken all day, every day. Favorite dish to cook, tacos.
I'm just so disappointed you ain't say Miss Gurley's at 629 Chelsea Avenue.
Shane, have you had Gus's? Not
We're not gonna go there
okay. All right. Ha!
because
Fried chicken bussing.
been there, had it, wasn't the greatest.
Oh, not Gus's. Did I say Gus? I did not mean Gus. I did not mean Gus from the depth of my soul. I did not mean Gus.
Again, I'm gonna start over. What's your favorite restaurant to eat at in Memphis?
Favorite restaurant to eat at? Joe's Fried Chicken. Joe's Fried Chicken.
I'm gonna give you a praise break. Go ahead.
You know what? I think that's what I'm about to have for dinner tonight. Oh,
This is why Lola and I get along because her reactions are always the best.
Joe's Fried Chicken. I don't think nobody hear me. Oh boy.
Okay, I've never heard of Joe's Fried Chicken. So where's Joe's Fried Chicken?
Joe's Fried Chicken is where it's in an old restaurant or where another restaurant was. It's called the Farmer's Place or something like that on Highland. It's right before Highland and it's tucked away in the cut right before you get to Highland and Central if you're coming from the Highland and Popular intersection.
So you take a right. So it's really close to U of M.
Yeah, very close. And I think, excuse me, I want to say that if not a year, maybe like 2 years, they're a recent restaurant. But when I tell you, I messed around, went there on a whim one day, and I was like, oh, I'll just try it. Yo, after I got after I got my award, somebody gifted me a gift card to Joe's. Listen,
Okay. Um,
try it.
I'm still upset you didn't say Miss Girl is at 629 Chelsea Avenue, but that's just you. You know, whatever. We got.
Listen, come talk to me after you've had Joe's, okay? And
Well,
then,
when COVID's over, I need to take a trip to back to Memphis
yeah,
and other
yeah,
places in the South.
just
So
just let me know.
tell Miss Verona to go away, and I can make it a little bit better. Uh, if you were not a teacher, what would you be doing professionally?
Ooh. Okay, in my mind, I would be fantastic at this, but I don't think I really am in real life. Singing and dancing. I think professionally, I would like to be a singer and dancer. Um, Now I can dance. Okay, I'm not so hot on the singing though. I am not Beyonce.
I love that you started with "In My Mind" and then said singing and dancing because of we all know, and forgive me, I can in my mind is blanking the song, the Christmas song that the black version starts with "In My Mind" and everybody else gets it wrong who doesn't know the song. So I thought that was great. I was like, is she about to go there? And you kind Lola, what's the name of the song? Because I can see is it Silent Night?
You
I don't know.
asked me a question I don't know the answer
Y'all forgive me. Somebody in the comments, y'all put that in there when we post this.
to.
Um, Best gift you've ever given or received?
Mm, given or received. Ooh, mm, man, that's actually hard. I think the best gift that I've given to one of my best friends. It was a um, ninja foodie. So it's like the grill that does like 6 or 7 different things where you can bake and grill and air fry and yeah. So she like uses that thing religious. Like it's not a day that goes by that she doesn't use that thing. So I think that's one of the best gifts that I've given. Um, One that I received. Now I've gotten great gifts. Trying to think one that stands out.
Y'all gotta give Amlola better gifts because clearly y'all not doing nothing that's sticking to her.
This is terrible. I'm trying to think like what do I use that I was like, man, I am so thankful that I got this gift. Um, Ooh, I hope my people don't crucify me for this. Um,
Well, I'll just interject. The reason why I did this, the
yeah,
fact that you gave your friend a ninja foodie.
yeah.
Did you buy one?
Well, I mean, it was like 3 of us that got together and pooled money. But she asked for it, and friends like, "Yo, can we do this?" And I was like. Yeah. Mhm. I mean, yeah, I like. Of course, you always want to give stuff that people are going to enjoy and things that they use. And I think at this point in life, I'm over doing like the traditional. We all know everybody like to smell good and stuff like that. That's a really easy gift. But stuff that people are going to like use and it like alters their life, like yeah,
We don't have to worry about the receive because it was a given or receive. So we'll just
that's right, that's right, that's right.
um if you could only eat one vegetable for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Broccoli,
A new one, thank you. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
yes.
Beautiful. Most extreme thing you've ever done.
Most extreme thing, go on the underground cave tour where I was like hundreds of feet beneath the surface of the earth. Not the surface of the earth. They made it sound like I was deep, 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 deep. I was deep, but I when this was last, so this is October 2019. I went to Branson, Missouri, and me and some family members went to Silver Dollar City, and one it's an amusement park, but they of course have different things you can do. One of them is take an underground cave tour, and so you descend down like 300-400 steps into the actual cave. It is super scary, but yeah, you go down so many steps and then you're like taking a 1.5 mile tour through a cave and they give you the history and all that. It's actually really cool. They have a couple waterfalls inside the cave and all that. And then when you come up, you have to walk up 200 steps, which was, whoo, man, that was intense. But then you ride up a tram takes you up the rest of the way. So yeah, that was probably the most extreme thing I've done.
Okay. You're the
Yeah.
second person to mention Branson.
Yeah, Branson is cool, man.
After that person's, whatever. We've now had two people mention Branson, Missouri as places they've been. So
Yeah.
okay. I've been to Branson. That's my profile picture on Facebook is me in Branson, Missouri playing shuffleboard. So
Oh, for
one
real? I didn't know
happening in that picture, that's what's happening. It's been the same for the last 6 years. I don't plan on changing it. So
that. Okay.
there you go. Any mantras that you live by?
I can do hard things. um, I can do hard things. And honestly, it's gonna be okay.
Okay. How would your best friends describe you in one word?
Mm, extra.
Okay. If you could recommend a book, podcast, TV series, or movie, what would you recommend?
mm. Children of Blood and Bone book. It's actually a series, a trilogy. And there's two of the three books already out. Children of Blood and Bone is the first one. Children of Virtue is the second one, and the third one is yet to be released. But it's fantastic. It's like y'all, it's like a black version of Harry Potter. Um, and yeah, so it's like a lot of magic, but it's based off of the Nigerian Ifa system, which is a religious system that originated with the Yorubas. And it actually has Yoruba words and all of that. It's great. I enjoy it. So book, do I have to give one for all, or was it an
No,
or
just one.
question?
Just one.
Okay.
What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? uh Favorite movie? I guess I have to go with Major Payne because that's the first thing that popped in my mind. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but that's a classic. Okay, Major Payne is good.
Best vacation you've ever taken?
Best vacation. Thus far, uh, thus far, I'd have to say Puerto Rico.
Shout out to Puerto Rico. That's a
Hey,
house was nice.
man, house was nice.
Food
Man, I
was
still think about them dang on tamarind wings they did. Coffee, tamarind, whatever. Man, them wings was fire. You hear
at
me?
the food truck down the street.
That, and then the walk to the beach, we were so close. We just ate good food, man. Puerto Rico was great.
Yeah, we went before all the hurricanes, so I hope everything's gotten,
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
build back up. I don't. The Airbnb that we went is still on Airbnb, so I guess they're good. But and we had the rooftop. It was just a nice time.
Yeah, it was good.
We
So
all needed a break, and it was just like, let's just go.
yeah.
And hopefully it'll happen. What is important for those who do not know you personally to know about you?
Man, I'm passionate. And I think people picked that up quickly after talking to me. But I'm passionate. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about the people I love. I'm passionate about living life in abundance. I'm passionate about giving. I'm a passionate person. So I think when people call me extra, they're trying to capture the fact that I'm so passionate in being extra. Yeah.
Can you name the web series that you once upon a time acted in?
Is it Tyrell and the Girl Scout cookies? What's
So if y'all do y'all internets, do y'all search on internets, you will find a series that Amalola and I were a part of many years ago
many years ago?
that I just remembered that is, it's just there. So if you find it, you find it. Um, is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we conclude this interview?
Um, no, I mean, ultimately, I think I just want everybody to be all right. It is going to be okay. All right. There are things that we control. There are things that we do not control, and so focus and work on the things that are in your realm of control. And for those things that aren't, leave it up to the Lord. That's it. So don't stress about it. It's gonna be all right though. It's gonna be all right. Come on, Kendrick Lamar. You should cue in Kendrick at the end.
Copyright issues, but y'all know
Oh,
the
okay.
song.
Well, y'all listen to Kendrick. All right. After this.
If you want to follow you on social media, where can they do that? How can they do that? Or do you want to just post it?
I'll say it here. You can follow me at Omolola on Instagram because that's really the only one that I use, y'all. So and it's spelled it's at of course OH.MA.LOW.LA.
I was like, I'm obviously gonna put it on the screen, but I was like,
Yeah,
ooh, this
just
look.
post it. But
Uh,
yeah,
so Lola, I'm
yes.
Lola, Miss Ajayi, my road dog. I want to
Hey.
say thank you for being the superhero that you are, and taking your time out of your life to teach our future, our leaders, our children, and having an impact in their lives that will go on for years to come. Being a teacher sometimes is a thankless job, so I want to say thank you from me, and probably from a lot of people watching this, but also that you don't get to see your results until years later. That's one thing I learned in that 1 year that I spent in a school. Like you put in this work and you don't see the results until years later, and it takes a lot of different people putting in those inputs to create the output that is our students as adults.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for what you do. I appreciate you so much. Have always been one of my best friends. I will always cherish that one time that your reaction, your extraness, and it was great.
Oh my God.
And y'all will appreciate Omolola so much more if you find that web series, because you'll just see her extraness and how, in her subtleties, it was just so funny. Uh, so thank you so much. Don't hang up after this because I will just end the meeting and we will have a little brief conversation.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day and have a great start to your next semester.
All right. Thanks, Shane. I appreciate the opportunity and all of it. I've had just a blast, like always. So thank you.
And I didn't say thank you for sharing your story because that was the whole point of this. So.
Oh, well, thank you for letting me share it.